I am 60 years old and I've been shooting with the Nikon D850 since 2018. Which means in camera years, this thing is pretty ancient. And depending on who you ask, so am I. But here's the thing, I don't feel like I'm done. And neither does this camera. And maybe that's why I still connect with this camera like I do. Because the D850 is not the newest thing anymore. But it still has a lot to offer. And at 60 years old, I'd like to think the same thing is true for me. Since 2018, I have used this thing to create at least 400 YouTube videos, thousands, tens of thousands of images, and this thing has been a huge part of my photography journey. So today I just want to go through a handful of reasons why I still love this camera. Not because it's new, not because it's trendy, not because the algorithm tells me I should create a video about that, but because after all these years, this thing still shows up and gets the job done every single day. And honestly, at 60 years old, I can respect that. So in no real particular order, I'm going to start with the files. The files are just amazing. The files are beautiful. And I know that term sounds a little bit vague. It probably sounds like something you might have heard before. But if you've used this camera and you've used other cameras, you know what I'm talking about. The files on this camera are just gorgeous. The images have depth. They've got detail. They've got flexibility. The D850 has that 45.7 megapixel sensor, which gives you these massive raw files, which gives you so much room to work with, gives you the dynamic range that you just kind of dream about. And for me, that totally matters, because I'm not always perfect in the field. Shocking, I know. Yeah, sometimes my composition is off. Sometimes I need to crop more than I thought I would like to crop. Sometimes I see an image within the image that I didn't necessarily see when I was out in the field. So these massive files help me crop down and help me get to the composition that I really want to get to. It's so easy to open up the shadows, bring down the highlights, or vice versa, and still feel like the image is not coming apart. And that's just one of the things I love about this camera, is it gives me options. And if you watch the channel, I'm always talking about that. Giving yourself, as the artist, as the photographer, giving yourself options. That's important. It's huge. And this camera steps right into that role. When I open a D850 RAW file in Lightroom, I still get excited. There's so much information there, there's so much detail, there's so much dynamic range. And when you nail the exposure and the light is good, it just like sends chills down my spine. I almost want to just run to the printer or share it immediately with friends and family, or Facebook or Instagram, what have you. This camera makes images that still feel modern, and that is amazing since I purchased this thing back in late 2017, early 2018. Alright, the next thing I want to talk about is the durability. This thing is built like a tank. I know you've heard that phrase several times, probably with many different camera brands, but this thing truly is a tank. It is a beast. It is not a tiny camera. It's not trying to disappear in your hand. It feels like a professional tool. When you pick it up, it has some weight to it. It's got balance to it. It's got ergonomics to it. And it just feels like something that was built to be used. And I love that. I've had this camera out in the cold, out in the ice, out in the rain, out in the forest, out in the fog, in the mist, whatever. You name it, I have had this camera out in it. I've had this thing out in situations I probably shouldn't have had it out in. But the D850 just keeps going. And I hate to admit it, but I have had some drops with this thing. It fell off of a kitchen table one time, 3 feet onto the ground. I tripped walking through Starved Rock and fell to the ground and dropped the camera into the, onto the ground. One time my tripod legs were full of water. I pulled the tripod out, I tilted it, the water all rushed up through the tripod right into the D850. It was a disaster, but the D850 handled it like a champ. And when you know your camera is built to last like that, it gives you the confidence to take it out in weather, in different conditions that you might not take a camera out in. And when I'm out in those conditions, I don't want to be worried about the camera. I want to be thinking about the composition. I mean, the D850 feels like it was built by people who expected photographers to take it out in these kinds of conditions. And that matters to me because photography is not always clean. It's not always comfortable. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's wet, sometimes it's dusty, and sometimes you're standing down by the river thinking you're getting frostbite on your fingers because it's so freaking cold out. And in those moments, I trust this camera the most. Alright, so this next reason I love the Nikon D850 might be my favorite and might be the most important reason of all. This thing can do everything. If you want to shoot landscape, you can do that. If you want to shoot macro, you can do that. Portrait, sports, street, time-lapse, focus stacking, bracketing, family stuff, or simply just wandering around with no intention in mind. And that is a huge deal because half the time I don't know what I'm going to shoot. Sometimes I leave the house with a plan. Sometimes I leave the house with a vague idea of what I might do. And in those moments, the safest camera for me to bring is the D850. It is a jack of all trades. It's not the newest camera, it's not the trendiest camera, it's not the lightest camera by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a do it all and do it all exceptionally well camera. And that's why people are still talking about this thing today. And that's why it's coming back. That's why it's leading the charge of people leaving, not necessarily leaving mirrorless, but coming back to DSLR. This thing has a soul to it. It has a feel to it. The files, like I said, are just gorgeous. And they have a soul and a feel. The D850 is not just another DSLR. I think Nikon took all of their experience and poured it all in to the D850. In fact, I have another video titled The Last Great DSLR, and I absolutely feel like the Nikon D850 is the last great DSLR. Alright, so the next thing on my informal list here is the autofocus, and I know what you might be thinking. You're thinking, Garrick, the mirrorless cameras that are coming out today, the autofocus is much faster, it's much sharper, it's much more technically sound. You can do more with it. This eye detect, you can have it subject detect, you can pick up birds and dogs and people and cars and airplanes and all, the whole thing. I now own a Nikon ZF, my very first mirrorless camera, my very first dipping my toe into the mirrorless world. I understand what subject detection can do. I understand what the eye autofocus can do. I understand that these newer mirrorless cameras have features that the D850 does not have. But here's the thing. The autofocus on the D850 is still very, very good. Especially through the viewfinder. I'm an old school guy. I like to look through the viewfinder. I'm not a big live view guy. This camera has been outstanding for me for landscape, for macro, for sports even. Even though you're only getting like 6 frames, I believe, a second. I have used the D850 many times shooting high school sports on dark fields during night game, and the D850 has done an exceptional job. Now, it may not lock onto a bird's eyeball from half a mile away, but when you know how to use this thing, you can get it to lock on quickly and get exceptional results. The D850's autofocus system, it actually makes you, the photographer, have to participate a little bit more. You have to choose your focus mode. You really have to understand the subject that you're about to shoot. and you really have to know what you're trying to do. And honestly, I think that has made me a better photographer. And I think it will make you a better one as well. It's not magic, but it is dependable. Alright, I think the last thing I have on my list is the customization. The D850 is just incredible. It allows you to do pretty much whatever you want to do with it. I mean, this thing is deep. There are so many different ways to set this camera up for however you want to shoot. You have custom buttons, you have autofocus setting, you have menu options, you have shooting banks, you have custom shooting banks, you have focus shift, you have time-lapse capabilities, you have in-camera folders. You have so many features and so many ways to customize this camera to your liking. This is a camera that you can definitely grow into. Like I've already said, I've owned it since 2018, and I'm still finding out new things, new features about it all the time. I did a video, my most watched video is about a focus setting on the D850 that I had no idea was there. 125,000 views on this video was just a ton for me. And that just tells me there's a ton of people out there that didn't know that either. Which means to me the D850 is incredibly capable, or I am not very good at reading manuals. And I'm going to guess it's a little bit of both. But that's one of the things that I love about this camera. It keeps you learning. It forces you to learn almost. The more time you spend with this thing, the more you realize what it's capable of. And I think that's the difference between a camera that you use for a little while and then sell, and a camera that you develop a relationship with and hold on to. The D850 is not simply a camera that you just turn on and go out and shoot. It's a camera that you actually grow into. And when you get it dialed in, it almost becomes invisible, like a part of you. And that is a wonderful thing. Now there's a million other things I could have talked about, but that's just a handful of the ones that I really wanted to share with you today. The beautiful files, the incredible autofocus, the incredible durability, the customization, and how this thing can do simply everything. Now, does that mean you should run out and buy a Nikon D850 today? No, not necessarily. Camera choices are personal. The mirrorless cameras are absolutely incredible. The Nikon ZF that I bought just a couple of months ago, I am in total love with. I feel like the D850 might be getting jealous. And there's definitely things the ZF can do that the D850 can't. But here's what I know. Every time I even halfway think about moving away from the D850, I pick it up, I take it out, I make a few images, and I remember why I still love it as much as I do. This camera has been with me for hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos, tens of thousands of images, and it is and will remain a huge part of my photography journey. And at this point, this thing is no longer just a camera that I own. It's truly a part of my photography story. And honestly, I think it still has a ton of life left in it. I hope I do too. So if you still shoot with the Nikon D850, let me know in the comments. If you still love that camera, let me know in the comments. Are you thinking about switching to mirrorless? Are you thinking about switching from mirrorless back to DSLR and considering the D850? Let me know that in the comments. Or are you like me and every time you think about making a switch to mirrorless, you pick this bad boy up and you say, nope, not today, not yet. And with that, hey, my name is Garrick, and I am your very best friend in the whole wide world. You all know the drill. Like it if you did, subscribe if you haven't, and ring that notification bell because every once in a while your old buddy puts up a halfway decent video, and you don't want to miss that one. We'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you. Bye-bye.